It was an ordinary day in Varanasi, or so I thought. But then, something inexplicable started happening. Something that changed everything for me and my family. Could it be the remnants of an old curse? Or was it just my mind playing tricks on me? This is what happened when we lived in a government bungalow in Varanasi.
I live with my husband and son. My husband has a transferable job, so every 2 to 5 years we relocate to a new city. In 2017, we moved to Varanasi and stayed in a government-allotted bungalow. Everything seemed fine with that house. I never felt anything unusual, even when I was alone with my son for a few days while my husband was away on work trips. But in 2021, things took a strange turn. Several incidents occurred, and I'll share them one by one. At the end of 2020, my mother-in-law suffered a brain stroke, leaving half of her body paralyzed. She endured months of suffering before passing away in 2021. That March, my son, who was otherwise completely healthy, woke up one morning, sat up on the bed, and suddenly collapsed onto the mattress. One side of his face was paralyzed, eerily resembling my mother-in-law's condition. He had also wet the bed, something he hadn't done since he was 2 years old. Tears rolled down his face as he lay there, unable to move. This episode lasted for about 20 to 25 seconds before he suddenly recovered. We rushed him to the hospital where he was admitted for observation. They conducted blood tests, an EEG, an MRI. Everything came back normal. He was later discharged, and we took him to Kalbhairav Mandir for a puja. Thankfully, he has been completely fine since, and this incident never repeated itself. That same year, in August, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, and her 2 daughters came to visit us. Let's call her elder daughter X and the younger one Y. X was 2 years old and had been diagnosed as borderline autistic. The main purpose of their visit was to seek treatment for her. X was always engrossed in herself, barely making eye contact with anyone, and responding only occasionally to her mother. She had trouble sleeping, and on certain nights, she would suddenly look at different corners of the room and start laughing, as if she were playing with someone invisible. My sister-in-law felt uneasy sleeping alone. So my son and I started sleeping in the same room as them. My husband had been transferred to another city for work. One night, X began looking at the walls again, laughing and behaving as if she were playing with someone. My sister-in-law held her tightly in her lap, trying to stop her from looking at the corners. But no matter how many times she tried, X would free herself and continue. Frustrated, I played the Hanuman Chalisa, a prayer to the Hindu god Hanumanji, believed to ward off spirits, on my phone. This calmed her down for a moment, but soon she went back to doing the same thing. That's when I remembered I had holy water and oil from a priest. I brought it from another room and placed some on X's forehead. For a few seconds, she looked amazed. But then, she calmed down. She quietly sat in her mother's lap. I sprinkled the holy water and oil around the room and applied it to everyone present. As I was leaving the room to return the holy water and oil to their place, I turned back and saw X staring at me eerily. When I returned, I saw my sister-in-law had laid X down on the bed beside her. My son and Y were both asleep. It was around 4 a.m. I lay down next to X with my sister-in-law on one side and me on the other. X was calm but still staring at me. It felt unsettling. She had never made eye contact with anyone before. I turned my back to her, switched off the main light, leaving the nightlight on, and tried to sleep. That's when I experienced the terrifying symptoms of sleep paralysis. I couldn't move or speak. It felt like someone had grabbed me from behind. I tried to call out, but all that came out was a weak Ugh. I was petrified. It didn't even cross my mind to recite the Hanuman Chalisa or any other prayer. Then, I heard my sister-in-law call out, "Bobby, what happened?" And just like that, I could move again. I quickly switched on the light and told her what had happened. She admitted that she had heard my muffled noises, but was too afraid to call out at first. However, when she realized I was struggling, she gathered the courage to speak. X was still awake, staring at us, calm. I was too frightened to sleep. Eventually, my sister-in-law and X fell asleep, but I couldn't. I was in shock. The next morning, I told my father-in-law what had happened. He simply laughed it off, dismissing any supernatural explanations. From that night onward, I couldn't sleep without the lights on. My life took a strange turn. I began having disturbing nightmares. I developed an intense fear of the dark, and every time I turned off the light, I felt as though someone was grabbing me from behind. My nightmares mirrored this sensation. 2 months later, my sister-in-law and father-in-law returned to their hometown, and we moved to a new city. But despite the change in environment, new city, new house, my life didn't improve. I lost my father. The nightmares continued. I started having conflicts with people around me for no reason. I felt lonely and constantly sad, even though I had always been comfortable being alone. No matter what I tried, cleansing rituals, spiritual advice, things would eventually return to the same state. Sometimes I wonder if all of this was somehow connected to my mother-in-law, especially since our relationship had been complicated. Or maybe it had something to do with the land she had purchased just before her stroke. A plot of land rumored to be cursed. My father-in-law had performed some kind of ritual with the soil, but neither my husband nor I know the details. My father-in-law refuses to talk about it. I am seeking advice on how to regain my normal life, so although I feel somewhat better, I can't keep relying on cleansing rituals forever. Is this paranormal, or am I just overthinking things?
I still find myself wondering, could all of this have been mere coincidence, or was there something supernatural at play? If anyone has experienced something similar or has advice on how to truly break free from such a curse, please share your thoughts. I just want peace, once and for all.